Okay. So just briefly glancing through this, you probably one of the first things you notice is, wow, this is a lot shorter than going through the other ones. And that's true, but I've also put a lot into the other sections of finally getting into zone 3 and zone 4. Building out of zone 1 takes some time of getting used to. And many of you know that played last year, even just from watching arena soccer, sometimes a player who has the ball in a 1v1 or 2v2 situation in zone 1 might be in a very difficult situation and end up losing the ball. And the reason why those top of arc free kicks happen very frequently is because they panic or just get stuck in a situation and need to get the ball out. So with that, once we advance the ball into zone 2, there's a lot of better things that we can do. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. This is the Zone 2 project, and this is actually a picture of Henry from one of our home games from last year, and Shipley tracking back as well. They have the ball in zone 2. They also have a player back in zone 1, but they've advanced the ball into zone 2, and this player is starting to look up and down the field. He's looking for their target forward. He's able to play through, and then hopefully once he plays this ball, he's hoping that whoever's marking him, in this case is Henry, he's hoping that Henry will take a look over his shoulder first and not run directly with him. But one of the biggest things that even playing on a smaller field like we have in SO5, just looking back behind you for a split second as that ball is played is very dangerous. So let's say this guy has the ball in zone 2, and he plays a ball up the field into zone 4. Well, with that, even though Shipley, let's just assume in this picture, let's assume that this man over here is Shipley's guy. Shipley is looking to drop behind the ball in this case to prevent a ball into zone. Okay, we want to force them back into zone 1. If they do play back, that's great. If they're in zone 2, one of the first things we should be thinking of is forcing them back into zone 1. So if they're looking up the field, we need to make sure that we're cutting off that option, because they get the ball in zone 4, there's a lot that they can do. So with that, he's looking up the field. He's about to play the ball. Shipley is dropping behind the ball because he knows that we want all 5 players behind the ball at all times. Maybe I'm wrong in this, just in this picture right here. Maybe I'm wrong, and Shipley's guy is like 2 steps this way and is already beating him. And maybe there's another guy that's just hanging out back that's marking him. But my assumption is they've played the ball out. They've played here, and we're looking to track back to get behind the ball. Now, that might not be the case here, but I'm assuming that. Once they get the ball in the zone 2, okay, there's really several different options of what can happen. And a very common ball played is a ball from zone 2 into zone 4. I mentioned before, it's really rare that someone gets the ball in zone 1, works to zone 2, connect passes, work the ball to zone 3, connect passes, work the ball into zone 4, and pass the ball around and then score a goal. That's very, very, very uncommon. Usually looks more like this: zone 1 to zone 2, then to zone 4, and then back to zone 3, and then a couple passes and looking for one of the side pockets to take a shot in. Okay, so that's really what's more frequently happening. Okay, so as we're looking at zone 2, and this is a more specific view of zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, and zone 4, if someone's in 2B, they have an option. They have a lot more options. They can play in the left pocket over here, or the left corner. They can play a ball up the field. They can play a ball at the right corner. They can play someone that's maybe hanging out in 2C or 2A. As we build out of the back in these situations, I want to make sure that, and I'm actually going to do this as well too, because maybe I should have actually included this picture in there as well. Let me see if I can grab it. This is it right here. Perfect. Let me dump this last one in there. Okay. This is a good picture too. So, this is zone 2. If a player is in this zone right here, looking up the field, and each of these men are marked, he can play through in this wide open lane. and the target forward then slide over and collect the ball. He can play through in this wide open lane, the target forward come over and collect the ball. Once we advance the ball out of zone 1, the target forward can now drop back a little bit. And I'd say at the top of the D is a good spot for him. I strategically put that player right there. So from there, the target forward, or sorry, the target forward and the second forward can make different runs. You know, maybe the target forward starts moving that way to provide more of a lane for him to play down to him. If he recognizes this guy gets put under pressure, and maybe the guy's pressuring from this side, forcing him to his left, maybe the target forward slides this way. Or maybe even the second forward might be checking into that space too. Primarily, we want the second forward to, you know, if he's really getting that ball in that situation in the middle of the field, it's rare that he's going to be able to just turn with no one on him and drive at the goal. So a lot of times what you'll see is you'll see this guy maybe check a little bit wide to receive that ball, or him bypassed altogether so the target forward can hold it up in a corner and then drop it back into a pocket or into zone 3. So then we can work the ball around the other way. Once the ball gets in the zone 3, we'll talk more about that when we start talking about zone 3, but that allows a transition from 2 to 4 to 3. If the ball is played from 2 to 4 and everyone drops defensively behind the ball, as they should, in theory, they should do it. They might not. If everyone drops behind the ball, that then opens up an option to play back into 3. And when that ball gets played back into 3, those players that have dropped into 4 defensively will step up higher into 3. But with that, the longer that you hold possession in 3, it's hard to hold possession in 3 for an extended period of time. What you'll see very frequently, if you watch a lot of indoor soccer, once they get the ball in zone 3, if they've possessed for a while, they need to either go back into zone 4 or go back into zone 2 in order to take out the pressure, because good teams will start to press you harder and harder in this zone, in zone 3, and look for good teams will look for ways to advance into these pockets to take shots. But that's zone 3, zone 4. Really in zone 2, right? If someone receives a ball, I'll say in 2B, they have more options. They can look up the field this way. They look up the field this way. If you receive the ball in 2C, you might have a long diagonal ball option into this left corner. You might have an easy ball down the line into this right corner right here too. And with that, I guess we'll talk first, starting off here defensively. Yeah, let me pull that back out. I guess that was that one option right there I meant to put in zone 2. So let me do that for you. As we start talking here, we're going to talk first starting off the defending of zone 2, and then we'll move into the attacking side. But to know some of what the attacking tendencies are important when defending it. So starting off, I guess the 2 main goals when defending this zone in zone 2, the objectives would be to prevent the ball to actually go into zone 4, and also to force away from the boards. As what happens frequently too, if this player plays this player over here and we're just guarding him around here, this player can be tempted to just push the ball down the boards into one of these pockets, into this right pocket. If he's in 2C and receives the ball and you're just giving him the boards, he might just push the ball down the line, take a touch, get in this pocket right here, and take a shot. Okay. It happens frequently where a faster player is maybe given a lane to go right down the line because a player doesn't force them off the boards, and they can continue to move the ball down through. Now, a player in 2C that gets the ball that isn't comfortable on the ball may look to play the ball backwards every single time, where really if you get the ball and you're not really comfortable in the position you're in and there's someone stepping fast, we have to be careful in going back in this case, because if someone's stepping really hard to you, and let's say you're standing right where 2C is, if you just turn and play back to the keeper and that's the keeper's first touch, this guy might be tempted to just continue sprinting at the keeper and then force the keeper to play a ball that he wasn't originally intending to play. So defending in zone 2, we want to make sure to do these two things: prevent them from actually playing a longer ball into zone 4, as in this situation right here, Henry's taking away the boards, but also getting ready close enough where if this guy does wind up, that he's able to step hard to him to prevent that long ball. It's like in outdoor soccer, when you see someone winding up to play a really long ball, I don't know, they swing the ball around the back, left back gets the ball, lift up his head and looks down at the ball and starts striding towards it. You got to step to that player to prevent that longer ball being played. So that's really important, making sure, because once they get the ball in zone 4, that's a really difficult place to defend sometimes. If they get the ball in the corner, they can hit the ball off the wall, and then that bounce into the center pocket, or one that ends up in the box somewhere, or someone making a back post run, or even just playing back into a pocket across the field, and that person being in a 1v1 situation where they can take a touch into their right foot and take a shot. That happens very frequently. A ball from 2B into the right corner, back into the right pocket, cross the field into the left pocket, 1v1 situation, cut into the right foot for a shot in a very dangerous area. So once they get the ball into that corner, the teams with proper target forwards look for that. And they'll mix it up. Sometimes they'll drop it back and play around to the other side. Sometimes they'll bang off the boards. Sometimes they might beat this guy altogether and get in a situation where they're driving the ball up the boards for someone, a drop-off option for someone between the box and this pocket right here, right at the top of the box. So as I mentioned before, forcing a player away from the boards is so important. Stronger players and faster players will just push up the boards and run, and it works in their advantage. We're going to rely on a lot of video throughout this too, not just me talking. So we'll get down to that in a few minutes. Attacking zone 2, right? So a ball to zone 4, you can go from zone 2 to zone 4 down the line, or to the corner. So let's say I'm moving, the first one says, I guess, down the line. So if I'm moving like 2A down the line, if I'm playing a ball down to 4, in this option right here, this is a little bit more predictable, where if a player plays the ball down the line, it's easy for this guy to just slide up into this space and play back, and it's easier to defend this ball. It's harder to defend if everyone's shifting and playing defense. If a player has the ball in 2A and the option diagonally is there, if someone can play a diagonal ball from 2A and it be in the air and get somewhere in this corner right here, that then causes the whole defense to then shift this way. If we drop the ball back and around, we're able to get around them very easily. A very common pattern of play that you'll see is, let's say, 2C to the left corner, drop back to the left pocket, cross the field to the right pocket for a shot or a 1v1 opportunity. The diagonal option is actually a bit more dangerous, and there's many reasons why. So this player has the ball and plays a ball down the line. He can run and get there, the second forward come, but what ultimately happens is this player is, these two sometimes miscommunicate, and they both of them go to the same spot in here. So this guy will get the ball and then play a ball off the boards to nobody. So it's frequently thought of, if someone plays a ball down the line and the target forward goes and gets the ball in the corner, the target forward thinks, hey, I'm the first to the ball, I'm going to come here. And this guy thinks, hey, I just played a ball down the line, I'm going to come get it. And then they both end up in the same spot, and that creates some extra traffic, and it's actually easier to defend because they're in the same spot. And it just naturally happens because a lot of times the second forward's first instinct is to be the first to support the target forward. But in a ball that's played diagonally across the field, the target forward can come here. The second forward still continues his run to be the first support. And this player who just played the ball in is making an easier run across field. So that way everyone's already in their position. Also, something to note is a diagonal ball that hits the boards here might then also take a weird ricochet and bounce somewhere in the middle here and be harder to hit. A ball that's played in the air down the line this way is going to hit this board, and it's just going to trickle to the goalkeeper. A ball played on the ground down the line allows this player to come and get the ball, hold it up. And with that scenario, if the target forward is holding it up, you know, he's looking to roll in to his right for a shot or roll in for his right as someone overlaps him. But just that miscommunication that happens very frequently when you play a ball down the line, that's a great ball. That's an awesome ball to play, and the target forward go and collect it. But know that more goals are frequently scored when this ball is played diagonally over here. The defense isn't necessarily ready to shift for it, and we have more players in attacking positions that can then get the ball. In worst case scenario too, here's a good thing too. If the ball is played diagonally here, this target forward comes and collects the ball in the right corner. This guy is the first support, and he comes up here, let's say at the edge of the box, and this guy continues his run at the other side of the box. This guy steps up, and he's an easy drop option too. And then that allows us to already have everyone in the position they need to be by the time the ball gets in the corner. And you know, when we get to zone 4, we'll talk more about that. But preventing that ball into zone 4 is important, and attacking, to be aware of that ball down the line. It's a great ball, but if it's open, sometimes a better ball is that diagonal ball in the corner. In the same way that in outdoor soccer, if the center backs are moving the ball around, playing a long ball down the line isn't as advantageous at times than playing the long ball switch, because the whole defense might be shifted to one side of the field, anticipating that ball. If a defender's here, right, on this guy, and the ball is played down the line, the defender never has to turn around. The defender still is in his line of sight and running towards the ball to defend. If the ball is played in the air over top, this defender has to turn all the way around and might not be aware of what's directly behind his back. He can't see, he doesn't have eyes in the back of the head and see what's going on, which then might leave him, the second that he turns around and takes a look, this guy might then be an option to play quickly off the boards for an easy goal just because of that ball. So just be aware of that. Little tactical things that I just had been used to from playing and been around and seen over and over and over again, that happens from just being around the game more, honestly, and seeing these patterns happen. You know, a few examples here: a ball that can go down to the corner. Sometimes the ball's played too like, maybe not too hard, but it's played hard that the ball originally, the target forward has to chase after the ball to the wall first, and then him have to clean it up and hold it up. Or it might be an option where maybe the target forward is just moving that way to give him an option, and they play that ball on the ground to him, and he's able to collect it somewhere between this pocket and the corner here. Some video examples that we're going to watch and talk about. I'm going to split you guys up into groups, and we'll talk more about that. The 2-4 diagonal ball, as I just mentioned, a ball that starts in here and goes across diagonally into the corner, could be seen as more dangerous at times. And some examples. I had top pass to the side diagonal run. That's a very common pattern of play that happens very frequently too. This player may get the ball and play a wide option, and this player either make a diagonal run across, or I'll say this, diagonal run slash, say diagonal slash overlapping run. It's frequent that this player gets the ball and plays one of these two options. Let's say he plays this way, and he might make a diagonal run down the boards, and this guy maybe outside the foot flick it, or just turn and play a pass that hits the board here down the line for them, where this player is able to collect the ball now in this right pocket for a shot. And when he does receive that ball, think about this. This player is running in running into this pocket right here. He has a target forward that's already been hanging out in that area, and he's also going to have a second forward that's going to be there. So there's times where, you know, this guy gets the ball, plays the ball here, makes a diagonal run. The man doesn't track him because he's so far back. You know, this guy plays the pass, and the defender turns and looks at this left guy. And in that split second, this guy make a long run down the field, receive the ball, and score. For those of you guys that played in the MASL last year, I'm sure you're aware of that ball that has been happening, that we've let up goals because of it. This defender make a run up the field. Now, when that defender makes the run and this guy plays the ball through, these two guys would stay home. They'd move up the field slightly, but they would be moving, making sure that they are still behind the ball as we attack with 3 and then defend, in that case, still have 2 back. So with that top pass, but also another common one is, if this player were to pass the ball wide and this player's first touch is in, this run might be better served as an overlapping run, especially if this player is left-footed here or right-footed here. Let's say, I don't know, I'm just thought of Pat for some reason. I thought of Pat. Let's say Pat is in this position right here, Pat Fleming. He's right-footed. If he receives this ball, and let's say it's a flat pass, and he receives it with his right foot, with the bottom of his foot, and there's an overlapping run here, he might be able to just roll the ball with the bottom of his foot behind him as the overlapping run is being made, him then collect the ball wide open and be driving down the corner. Okay, so the field really does open up in zone 2. There's a lot of things that you wouldn't want to try that in zone 1, especially make an overlapping run and then lose the ball. So even when you make an overlapping run or diagonal run from zone 2, know that there is a risk. If I play this ball in and I start making a run through, and this guy goes to play a pass and he gets intercepted, we now have a big deficiency in our back line. So one common behavior is, if this guy is playing this pass and you see him sprinting through this lane or overlapping, this guy right here has to drop 100% of the time. He has to drop in, because if he plays that ball here and this guy takes a bad touch and he's already making the run and this ball gets intercepted, they're just driving right back down the middle, which I'm sure at some point in the season will happen. It'll be frustrating, right? The ball hopped up, bad touch, bad surface, maybe just a bad touch on you, and we gave the ball away and they drove right down the middle and scored. But this guy right here, even though he wasn't directly involved in that play, might get called out for not providing some help defense. A very common technique used in basketball, right? Having that help defense of sliding over, but knowing that, I'd say even a preventative defense, that we have the ball, but assuming the worst case scenario when we're playing in that situation, being off the ball. If you go sprinting up the field, a problem that we had at the beginning of the season last year repeatedly, this guy would play here, make a run up, and then this guy would run up too. And then this guy would get left out to dry. Right? We have to make sure we only attack with 3. So like if this guy gets the ball and notices this guy making an overlapping run, he wouldn't then join the attack too. He needs to be smart and realize, oh, there's 3 guys up, I'm going to stay back. That's how it has to be. So we'll continue to talk through these patterns and work through them in training. But if we get the ball in zone 2, we're going to look into playing the ball into the corner. We're going to look into possessing the ball and moving through. We're going to look for the second forward at times. If he's wide open, if they're providing a lane right to him, he might get the ball and then bounce the ball wide for someone that's here. He might get the ball, everyone collapse on him, and him play back. He might get the ball and be able to turn and be able to drive at goal. That's not as common, but maybe they just lose their mark and he receives the ball wide open in the middle of the field. What this player cannot do is, this player cannot check too far into this space right here and have all 4 guys back here, because that provides more pressure on the ball. So finding a good space, I'd say in between, somewhere in the middle of zone 3, migrating in here. Once the ball is advanced into zone 2, these 3 guys control zone 2. This guy controls zone 3. And then this guy controls zone 4. That's why they're there. Okay. And then once the ball's played into that zone, then they receive support.